No volume.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the November 15th State Building Code Council meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Would staff please do a roll call to ensure a quorum?
Is it on there? Yeah. Thought I turned it on. But we're having issues with the volume.
Okay. Are you able to hear me just fine?
That would seem like a no.
We can hear you on the call, Damon.
I
Okay,
can hear him in here, but we're not hearing. I'll try my volume. Yeah. And yeah.
Can they hear you, Dustin? I can unmute.
Just in case nobody heard, we're having some technical issues with our audio video here in the room for staff. So give me just a couple moments.
okay.
I just wants to turn on their computer. Fine.
So as far as check it's coming out same as this.
Okay, that worked.
Check. Got it.
Okay.
All right, we should be good to go.
Dustin, I can hear you, but you're very faint.
Oh, I might be not underneath the microphone very well. Can you hear me now if I just raise my voice?
Yeah, you're still quite, you're distant, but yes. Is it possible to use the microphone on your laptop?
It is, but we'll have a lot of echo issues if everybody's doing that.
Gotcha.
Let me mess with one more setting here. How's that sound?
That's better.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Okay. Could we please do a roll call
And Damon Doyle,
here?
Bob Byerther, Jill Anderson,
I'm here.
Jay Arnold.
Here.
Justin Borgo.
Here.
Tom Handy,
Here.
Angela Hopp,
Here.
Audra Haringa,
Here.
Matthew Hepner, Craig Holt, Kai Minzer, Ben O'Mara,
Here.
Pete Reiki,
Here.
Katie Sheehan,
Here.
Dan Young.
Here.
We do have a quorum. And we have Lauren Lathrop, Don Lovick, Representative Alex Rammel,
Good morning.
Representative Suzanne Schmidt, Senator Linda Wilson,
Here.
and our Assistant Attorney General Derek Meyer-Bachdahl.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here.
And excuse me, Suzanne Schmidt's trying to get in. She needs to be allowed into the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any of our other attendees that would like to introduce themselves and be recognized? I see we have somebody at least appears to be Stoyan Bumbleoff. but if so, please raise your hand. James, go ahead.
Yes, James Knowles with the Fire Equipment Manufacturers Association and the Washington Fire Protection Association for item 12 on the agenda.
Thank you. Tim, go ahead.
Tim Atterbury, Associated General Contractors of Washington. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth,
Elizabeth Torsky with Cascade Natural Gas.
welcome. Corey,
Yeah, Corey Shaw with the Washington Aggregate and Concrete Association, here for item 6 on the agenda.
thank you. Ted,
Ted Clifton, Zero Energy Plans, designer and builder of Zero Energy Homes.
thank you. Jim,
Jim Lazar, energy economist, and here to speak at public comment. Thanks.
okay. R. Bloom,
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, WSU Energy Program, excuse me, Program Coordinator.
okay. Patrick,
Yes, Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington. Thank you.
welcome. D. Scott Peterson,
Hi, Scott Peterson, with the Northwest Gas Association, sponsor of the petition you're considering
okay.
later. Yeah.
Tim, I think you've already introduced yourself. Your hand's still up. Megan,
Megan Lewis from the Carbon Leadership Forum for item 6.
Kendall,
Hi, good morning. Kendall Litticoat, representing Metro Safety and Fire and the Oregon Fire Equipment Distributors, interested in agenda item number 12.
okay. Lisa, Lisa Rosenau,
Thank you. Sorry, I was muted. Lisa Rosno with Evergreen Technology Consulting, here to make a comment regarding the integrated draft for the 2024 WSCC.
okay. Thank you. Kevin,
Hi, Kevin Duell with Northwest Natural. Thank you.
welcome. Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Just chime in for a sec. This is Rick Blumenthal. There's no way for me to see that I can mute or see.
Jonathan Jones with WSU's Energy Program. I think I'm having a problem with the audio. There it goes. Jonathan Jones with WSU's Energy Program.
Oh, welcome, Jonathan.
I'm sorry. This is Rick Blumenthal. I have no way I can mute my audio. I don't have any icons on the bottom of my screen to mute.
That's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Our choice.
Please.
Greg.
Greg Johnson with the Vista.
Hey, Greg, welcome aboard. Okay, Lisa, and I think your hand's still up. Is great. So as you can see, we've got a packed agenda today. We've been keeping these meetings to 4 hours. Nearly everybody here is a volunteer, so I'd like to try to shorten it as much as we can, but we've allowed for up to 6. But I will be trying to keep all comments brief. Can I get somebody from the council to make a motion to review and approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, this is Dan.
Thank you, Dan. There's been a motion and a second to review and approve the agenda. Any comments, Roger?
Sorry, I'm having technical issues. Yeah, I have I know that the agenda is packed, and I can certainly bring this up under other business on 17, but item number 8 from the minutes from the October 18th meeting, it was requested that the council at this meeting provide a clear definition of the ad hoc tags role. That's the single exit, and now I'm not even remember the other single exit multiplex housing tag. So I, as the chair, would request that we add that to other business is fine, but I would hope to get a little bit of direction and clarity from the full council on how to move forward.
Okay, we will try to keep things moving so that you have time to discuss that at that point.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. I would entertain a motion to review and approve the minutes from October 18th.
So moved, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Second.
Thank you, Jay. Any comments on the minutes from October 18th?
Sorry.
Katie, go ahead.
I just had a question on just form because there's a point where it says, I'm trying to pull it up myself here, where it says that the motion passed unanimously with a voice vote, and it was friendly amendment to the vote. It was in number 6. And then everything else, and that's kind of how we've been doing things, unless we do a, and then there were other times where it just says the motion passed. And I don't know if I'm getting too technical here, but should we say one or the other all the time? Or if there's a vote, there's just a vote. Is that fair? Annette, Annette, you're taking the notes, right?
Yes.
Is that just something that got thrown in there because you were being extra?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's fine
I'll
then.
be more consistent.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was like, oh, that's a nice way of putting it, but also it's a lot to put on you. So anyway, thank you for your excellent note taking.
Okay, any further comments on the minutes from October 18th? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, public comments for items that are not on the agenda. Jim Lazar, go ahead. Jim, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm Jim Lazar. I'm an energy economist, retired from a long career in utility regulation and energy efficiency. I served in energy code processes beginning in 1979, and I appreciate the great work the council has done on modernizing our state energy codes. As I'm sure you're aware, Initiative 2066 will probably become law at the end of this year, and it puts some strict limitations on the council with regard to fuel choice and future energy codes. The BIW has raised an issue about its applicability to current energy codes in a letter on your agenda. My comments deal only with future energy codes, so a different issue. I do expect legal challenges to Initiative 2066, but I think you do need to be prepared to address future code changes in a manner compatible with the non-discrimination language in the initiative. And I have a specific suggestion for your consideration as you do this in the future. Future codes could be developed on a strictly energy budget framework. That is, allow a defined number of BTUs per square foot for energy delivered to the site from offsite sources. The budgets can be different for different building classes, but all should be non-discriminatory with respect to the type of fuel. A therm of gas is 100,000 BTUs. A gallon of heating oil is 138,000 BTUs. A gallon of propane is 93,000, and a kilowatt hour is 3,413. This will recognize the inherent efficiency of electricity without constituting bias under the language of the new initiative. By applying that energy budget to energy delivered to the site from offsite, it will also preserve the effect of the current incentive for on-site solar production, as that would not be counted in the total. Obviously, the details of this implementation will require work should the council choose to go this route. But I think it's a way to comply with the initiative without compromising the long-term goals of energy efficiency, customer economy, and emission reductions. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jim. Those are great comments. Are there any other public comments on items not on the agenda? Seeing no hands up, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. That is number 5, the budget report. Senator Wilson.
Oop. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a point of order. Suzanne, Representative Schmidt is in as attendee. She needs to be promoted as a panelist.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Smith, could we get you to raise your hand as an attendee? Your name is not labeled correctly in here.
It's under rep and she should.
Oh, rep,
yeah, she's
okay.
a panelist.
Yes, yeah, she's now on the panelist side.
Gotcha.
I'm now on the panel, but this happened last meeting as well. When I came in, I wasn't allowed as a panelist, and then I had to ask to be allowed.
Are you getting the email reminders from
Yep.
Enterprise Services?
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that come from Enterprise Services is because you're signed up on the list. I get those as well. Those will automatically put you in as an attendee.
Oh, no, I'm actually using the link that I'm receiving from Annette
Oh, okay. Well, then
when I get the agenda.
Huh, that's interesting. I don't know why that's happening then.
Okay, well.
We will
We'll look into it and try to find a solution for you and be more mindful of locating you there in the attendees list so we can get you in sooner.
Okay, thank you.
Kai, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was accounted for. I missed the roll call because of some technical issues. So thank you.
Gotcha.
Seems to be a day of technical issues already. So. Okay. Dustin, do you want to lead off item number 5?
Yes, so this was one of the last items we discussed at the October meeting. And there was several questions that came from the council that I was not in the position to answer most directly. So I have a similar report here to show to you guys today. And I also have some help from our DES finance department, Michael Diaz here to answer particular questions. Let me get back to my council notes from the last meeting and address the specific questions here. So on my notes here, we are looking for a better representation for what was presented to you guys, showing the different funds that the council does business with. And so, is everybody seeing my screen in the presentation? No? Okay. No. Let me make sure I get that up before I continue. Okay, so what you see here is pretty much what was displayed for the council meeting in October. Folks see the red on this one and feel like the SBCC is operating in the red. And while we do spend a little bit more, we aren't necessarily in a bad fiscal position. We do have several different funds. If I scroll down, we have our fee intake trend chart here. And if we're looking at this fiscal year, we've got the green line, which is hidden in there, but we're consistently getting the same amount of fees about through the different parts of the year. And if we continue to scroll down, we can see our net budget and our target position and our fund balance and our projected balance coming through the rest of fiscal year 25. So this green bar down here is where we plan to, if we are receiving no money, we need to stay within this band to continue to operate moving forward. And you can see with this trend graph here that we're above that target range and continue to grow, and we're still suffering some lack of staffing and things like that. So that's one of the reasons why maybe our fund grows. And down here at the last page of this one is representative of our other funds that we have to use money from for legal fees and embodied carbon study and things like that. But I have Michael Diaz here from our finance department that produced this report for us and will be probably a better person to ask direct questions on this particular information. So we are coming with more information here today. One of the things brought up at last meeting was the volunteer time to be somehow represented in here. Staff didn't have time to maybe do that research to compare these. So that's not included in this one. And we don't have a comparison to other states, which is one of the other points I have as a notation for this report here. We didn't have the time with the amount of work in this last month to make a comparison to the other state budgets as well, which might not also be apples to apples as far as how they do their business. So that's a quick introduction and overview of what I have here. And I think I would open up for questions and comments, and I might answer first and then lean on Michael to maybe elaborate for me.
Okay. We'll go ahead and start off with you, Roger.
Yeah, a question for Michael, particularly the what's on the screen right now. So the way I read this is on the bottom, the state budget allows for 136,000 for the residential housing, and I'm assuming that's a study, 500,000 for legal fees, and the 250 for the embodied carbon study. Up on top is what we have actually spent of those funds. Is that correct? And I'm assuming that the embodied carbon study, that's just that, funds haven't come through yet. So is that a correct assumption?
Yep, that's correct assumption. These are 3 different funding sources that we received, either general fund money or through the Climate Commitment Act. So it does not impact Building Code Council's Fund 084.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is back up on that first sheet. I think I asked it before, what line E actually is, and then how does that then drop so dramatically for 25 planned?
Michael, ask you on that one.
So line E is a combination of different things. It encompasses things like if we were to buy code books, if we were to need meeting space, pay for meeting space, it's going to cover a lot of our external allocations. So things that we get charged for from OFM, from WATEC, from Secretary of State for various things across the state. It just is allocated to a portion of that cost is allocated to the Building Code Council. So that's what kind of makes up that large number there. The large decrease is mostly because in fiscal year 24, about $200,000 was budgeted for it was basically a placeholder to get to our expenditure authority. We are limited in how much we can spend over a biennium out of Fund 084. And in 24, we put a kind of a placeholder in there, assuming that we would need that expenditure without really assigning it to anything. And in 25, we didn't include that in our budget. So that's why we see that large decrease of 200,000.
But it seems as though we spent actually more than that so far.
In fiscal year 25, so for fiscal year 24, we had budgeted 390, almost 399. There was a little bit more than what we had planned, and that was, let me just open up real quick. A lot of that was due to legal fees for the Attorney General. So essentially, that $200,000 placeholder that we had put in. While we didn't spend that, we spent it on Attorney General fees that we couldn't move to the appropriation that we got, because the appropriation we had received was for fiscal year 25 only.
So that legal fees do comprise part of goods and services in line E?
It does, yes.
Okay.
And then if we go down to the, I think it's the 4th page in the document, just head up. Next, yeah, that one there. we're anticipating another $500,000 in legal fees for the first half of 25. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is what we've been authorized to spend up to $500,000. And again, if we don't spend, if legal fees come in less than that, we don't get to keep that as the council in our funds. That just goes back to I believe that one was the Climate Commitment Act funding.
Senator Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just curious. So the 500,000 was allocated toward litigation already in the works.
Correct.
So good chance of more litigation down the line. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we can avoid that. Any other comments from council members? I think one of the things I brought up is that any group or board of directors, anything I've been part of over the years, the directors assume some fiduciary responsibility. I don't know if that's something, Michael, you can respond to, or maybe Derek, but do council members have fiduciary responsibility to this council?
So looking at the RCW 19.27.074, number 1, section D is the only place that I have located that the council is responsible to interact with this budget. So the DES is the housing for the administrative staff for the council, and the budget mainly revolves around the operation of the council, and we administer all that moving forward. So what this says is we approve a proposed budget for the operation of the State Building Code Council to be submitted by DES to the Office of Financial Management. And as I understand it, we can have, as a council, we can have input on the proposed budget, but then it gets finalized and sent out through the work that Michael is doing within DES. And so I would ask Dirk on his opinion on this one, but in order to have input on the proposed budget prior to approval, we would need to be working here in the beginning portion of 2025 to round out that fiscal year. And you know, I would need to bring information for you guys to digest prior to the turnover of the fiscal year. And this was not something that was on the radar for me in April, when it would probably be more appropriate to engage the council for that. So there's not a responsibility to approve the final budget, but to work with us on the proposed budget.
Okay, fantastic. Roger?
Yeah, Dustin, so you kind of answered my question. The budget is from June to July, correct? So
that's when the turnover happens for the fiscal year, yes.
Right.
But
So
in order to work on the proposed, we need that lead time.
It's also a biennial budget,
Oh, sorry.
so it's 2
starting
years.
when? And that the biennial budget, is that starting this year, 25 to 27? Yeah, or maybe Alex can.
I can jump in real quick. So it is a biennial budget. It would have been July 1st of 2023 to June 30th of 2025. We do annual refreshes. So just because, you know, obviously what we budget in the spring of the first part of the biennium, you know, could drastically change in the second fiscal year. So we do have the opportunity to update it each year.
Thank you, Michael. So what I'm suggesting is that is something that we need to do this next spring to work on the next budget. I don't recall how it occurred for the last budget, but at this point, my recommendation is the current budget is what it is. Let's make sure that we're doing a proper review and doing what we're supposed to according to item D there for the upcoming biennial budget.
Perfect. Tom?
Yeah, so just to be clear, the budget's a biennial budget, but the appropriations are annual.
It depends. So the appropriations that we received are annual. So again, related to the residential housing, the legal fees, and the embodied carbon study. Those are 1-year appropriations. We have a biennial expenditure authority. So again, how much the council can spend out of 084, Fund 084 is limited. And so again, with that, regardless of how much revenue you bring in, you are limited to how much expense you have, because we are capped out with our expenditure authority.
Okay. Thank you. I think this brings some clarity to what we were presented. So, any other comments from council members? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Certainly, thank you.
Let's go on to item number 6, the embodied carbon study. Dustin, would you like to lead off?
Yep, I'll lead off. So on I believe early on the 8th of this month, we received not the finalized study, but the study as prepared by the Carbon Leadership Forum. And we delivered that out to the council so that they could consume it. And then we also posted that on our SBCC website to begin soliciting comments from the public and the industry affected by this topic. So we have some folks from Carbon Leadership Forum here. Megan, I believe, is here again, who presented to us the preliminary stuff last meeting. And so I have pulled up here the report on screen. It's super large, so you're only seeing the top of the first page. Oh, yeah, that's the report. That's the cover page. Okay. It looks like a background screen.
Scroll down to the next page.
And so here, let me change the view a little bit so we can see this. There we go. So we're fitting the page. And so this is delivered out. We are soliciting comments as to date. I'm not aware that we've received any comments. Is that accurate? So today we haven't received any comments to add to an appendix on this. But come December 1, we'll be finalizing the appendix and creating the final study and delivering this to the legislature.
Okay.
And we would be looking for action from the council today to accept the study and direct staff to deliver on December 1 with the appendix as compiled.
Okay. Chell?
Thanks. What is the due date for comments for this?
December 1.
Okay, so the due date for comments is December 1, and then this will be delivered to the legislature around the same day?
Close of business maybe the next morning.
Okay, that's speedy.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, are we discussing elements of this right now or just presenting it and expecting comments to be in the written form later?
So we have no comments to discuss, but if there's comments from the council, we're open to talk about the contents of this report.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions that came to mind when I was going through it. The first one is definition of a term that I hadn't heard before. It is possible that it's a typo. One of them's on page 14 where it says cradle to gate instead of maybe cradle to grave. And I'm wondering if that is a typo indeed, or if it's a different concept.
Megan.
It's
down here in section 2 there.
It happens several times throughout the document.
Okay. So
It's Megan. It's Megan.
I'm promoting her.
Oh, Megan's got her hand up. There we go.
Hi, okay, I can respond now. Yes, cradle to gate is a separate term. It refers to a narrower set of life cycle stages. So these first 3 stages that are shown here, A1, A2, and A3 is cradle to gate. And then cradle to grave refers to all of the life cycle stages. So blue is cradle to grave, orange is cradle to gate in this diagram.
So then can you just define gate?
The idea is that the gate is when you're leaving the manufacturing facility.
Okay. The other question I had was when it discusses energy, either use in production or transportation or, throughout the life cycle of the building. Does it refer to, and we've had this discussion a bunch of times on council, is this source energy embodied carbon or site energy embodied carbon?
So we don't focus on operational energy use in buildings for a new project. So as you can see in this diagram here, that can be included in a life cycle assessment. That's not the focus of the study. So energy use that is referred to is primarily, in this case, from use during the manufacturing phase. So at a facility, at a manufacturing facility, through energy used, fuel to transport materials from one place to another, energy used on site for construction, and then also emissions that are associated with things that are beyond energy. Does that address your question?
Somewhat, but the same question remains: is the energy used during manufacturing, is say electricity, is that embodied carbon as after it's delivered to the site or at the source of generation?
It
could be different.
Yeah, embodied carbon would capture, so for an EPD for a specific product, there are rules and something called a PCR that defines exactly how you should do the accounting for each product. So that is where I would go to make sure that I had the fullest answer to this question. But essentially, I would say that it takes into account all the energy associated with manufacturing. So that includes on-site energy use as well as electricity. Okay,
but not necessarily the energy used to generate the electricity.
Oh, I see what you're saying, process emission. I would have to look at the specific product category rule for each individual material to see how process emissions are handled.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's really relevant. Energy Star recently released a document saying that source energy is much more relevant of a measuring device than site energy. So that would be interesting to hear what you discover on that. I saw a couple of hands up from the attendees, and Corey, go ahead.
Thank you. Again, my name is Corey Shaw, and I'm with the Washington Aggregate and Concrete Association. And we have some concerns with the report, specifically surrounding the analysis itself for industry and the components and the data and the statistics that were tied to it. We have concerns with the references to supply availability. And more specifically, we can state that we weren't at the table during this study, and we weren't brought to the table. And some of these misconceptions could have been cleared up. And so we have concerns with this report moving forward through the process without those being corrected. We can state specifically that like the supplementary cementitious materials that they reference, such as fly ash and slag, they claim that that's a supply and demand solution, but that actually is not, because we are not building more coal plants, which would provide the fly ash, and we're not creating more cement plants in the state. So to source those materials globally would increase our GWP and then upend the EPDs. So that makes a challenge in the industry there. This report was also based on another previous study that had only examined 3 buildings. And it makes the same assumptions from that report that were already deemed economically futile and insignificant. And in that report, the building code officials had already noted that it would be challenging for a building code official to implement these policies in the building. And this report seems to dismiss those concerns. And we want to point to the fact that last legislative session, there was a bill passed, which was House Bill 1282, which allows for a working group to be created through the Department of Commerce to look at EPDs. And that working group has just convened with multiple members of industry at the table. So our urge to the Building Codes Council would be that they not adopt this policy, but they push it through to the Department of Commerce and put it before that working group to actually work out some of these problems and solidify the data so that it can be a factual report and not an erroneous report that gets attached to an appendix.
Corey, thank you. That was very valuable.
Yeah.
I know that we're working off of a legislative directive with this, and I wonder if it's appropriate. Dustin, maybe you can chime in. Can we refer it to this committee as opposed to refer it to the legislature, or are we kind of our hands tied on this?
I feel that our hands are tied. We have a due date and we had a short amount of time to put this all together. And so it was a pretty large lift for staff to coordinate with the time allowed. And so with the due date of December 1st, there might be a little bit of time, but I don't think it would be an effective, coordination with Department of Commerce to have input within that work group on this report. If we had more time to develop this report, we would have loved to bring more people to the table to have input.
Right.
All right, so we are putting together a substantive comment document that we will provide before the deadline, but just know that that's coming.
Okay.
Thank you, Corey. Ted, I think you were next. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So I viewed the study presentation at the SBCC meeting on October 18th and then reviewed the underlying document a few days ago. And I came up with a list of about 3 pages long documenting the reasons why this proposal was not yet ready to be presented to the state legislature, other than as a work in progress. The only appropriate action for the legislature to take is to send this back to the authors and tell them to get it right. Below are a few of my most concerning issues. Number 1, section 3.4 concludes with the sentence, I quote, "Applying a whole life perspective to building would make the realization of high performance buildings with low embodied carbon possible." Yes, I agree with that. This should be the guts of the whole proposal, but it seems to be buried in this one obscure section. One important fact that was still ignored in the rest of the document is that there are ways you can use a bit more embodied carbon in a building to save more operational carbon over the life cycle of the building. An example is using a concrete thermal mass slab, which can save up to 22% of the combined heating and cooling costs of the building in Western Washington over the course of a year, and even more in Eastern Washington, where temperatures are more radically different from day to night. The 2022 WSEC does just the opposite, for example, with insulation requirements that waste more embodied carbon than can possibly be recovered over the life of the structure. Number 2, most of the proposed code would just lead to massive amounts of additional pencil pushing without any realization or improvement of the carbon situation acknowledged by section 5.2.2.2, quote again, "However, reporting itself will not result in the reduction of embodied carbon." And then you get into the issues that the building officials have had with paying for that pencil pushing. Number 3, 5.2.2.3 mentions updating the code over time to include more and more areas of scrutiny and tightening restrictions on the total amount of embodied carbon permissible, leaving an open-ended mandate to increase the boondoggle. And I will support the word boondoggle here in a couple minutes. Number 4, many of the examples given of other state and local programs allow up to double the amount of embodied carbon as the standard reference design as an initial starting point for their code, which will only increase the amount of embodied carbon allowed for many new designs and push the potential recovery farther into the future. Number 5, the study proposed using 60 years as the standard life cycle of a building or study period, by which the value of embodied carbon versus operational carbon would be measured. Our whole problem with carbon in the atmosphere stems from the fact that we were repeatedly rebuilding homes and buildings instead of building them to be more durable in the first place. If it won't last 100 years or more, don't build it. On page 57 of the report, this is number 6, quote, biogenetic carbon and carbon sequestration shall be reported separately from fossil fuel global warming potential, unquote. Exactly. But the current way the world is calculating the, quote, biogenetic carbon, which I assume is what I call organic carbon, trees, in other words, is exactly the same as the calculation for all the other embodied carbon, giving lumber credit for carbon it has already sequestered over the last 100 years or so of its growth cycle. Once that tree is cut, that process is stopped, and only the return of that carbon to the atmosphere remains throughout the life cycle of the building for maintenance, replacement of wood siding and trim, for example, and finally during demolition and disposal of the building at the end of its life cycle. This failure to properly identify and account for the time frame of the capture and release of carbon from biogenetic sources is the reason this and all current proposals worldwide will fail to reap the intended returns in reduction of carbon over the next 60 years. The bottom line on, quote, biogenetic carbon, unquote, if that's the term we're going to use, is at best, if left in the wild, it is carbon neutral. But as soon as you start applying the harvesting, transportation, manufacturing, and assembly costs, it is a net producer of greenhouse gases, even when you give credit for the next crop being planted and nurtured over its lifespan. This leaves nothing to sell as, quote, carbon credits to other industries. This whole carbon credits business is where the boondoggle comes in. I have a lot more points I could make, but these are the most critical and reason enough to send this proposal back to the drawing board.
Thank you, Ted. You mentioned you had a few pages of notes. Could you please submit those before the first?
Yeah, I'll submit what I just read you right away. I'm going to try and expand on that over the next few days.
Okay, much appreciated. I'm trying to balance between attendees and panelists. Roger, I think you're next in the order.
Thanks, Damon. I raised my hand when Corey was sharing, and she referred to this as a policy, and I'm trying to go back and understand what the council has been tasked to do, and that is to prepare a study. A study is not a policy. The information that we are intending to send along to the legislature will then go through the whole legislative process, including open public comment. Senator Wilson can probably explain to everybody a little bit better than I can, that whole process. So I do want us, and I'm actually looking back in the bill to make sure I understand exactly what the legislature has directed us to do. And then I will just comment on the last person that shared. There is much debate in the industry about what biogenic carbon is and whether it is appropriate or how best to account for it. There are varying opinions. The opinion that we do need to account for it, that I probably don't necessarily agree with, is that yes, you have a piece of wood that comes out, but when you talk about cradle to grave that Tom asked about, that piece of wood will eventually either go back into the ground or get burned or something. So again, a huge conversation within the industry about biogenic carbon and whether it should or should not be included. So I actually would support the report saying report them both, because I don't think that it's clear in the industry. And I see Todd's hand up. He probably has significantly more input and information and details about it than I do. So thanks.
Okay. I'm going to let Corey respond to your questions, and then I'll call on Senator Wilson. Corey, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. My reference to policy was that our concerns are that because this document is flawed at this point, it moving forward to legislature could end up driving some bad policy. And my other reference is also to the proviso that was established last legislature, that the requirements for this study would be to seek industry input. And because that wasn't done during the process of the study, this document is flawed.
Okay. Senator Wilson?
Damon, may I
Oh,
respond?
go ahead. Yes.
I think that both of your positions are opinions as to whether, certainly, I don't know all of the industries who were consulted on this. So I don't know if what concrete groups were included in this study. And your conclusion that that the whole study is incorrect or false is your opinion. So I think that those are both opinions that may or may not be shared by a number of people. So I just wanted to respond.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Wilson, then Micah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Roger may have just made my point of the fact that there are differing opinions. And if all opinions are not included in this document and verified or confirmed, this information is going to the legislature, as Corey indicated, as it shouldn't go there as this is written in stone, that this is how it is, when you already have in this very small group people that are saying that that's not exactly right. So I guess my suggestion would be for the substantive comment document that Corey is talking about be submitted with the carbon study. It was, again, rushed through very quickly. If we want a good document, it shouldn't be rushed through, but I understand the timelines for this study, which was to develop recommendations for language addressing embodied carbon so that it can be adopted. So I guess my concern is there are other opinions and they need to be considered. So I would say addendum that allow the addendum to go in with the report so that everything can be looked at. When it gets to the legislature, it won't be the entire legislature looking at it. It will be the committee that it is supposed to report to. They will then get into that. But again, they don't have a lot of time to get into the detail. That's why they're depending on the so-called experts that are bringing the information to the legislature. This has to be accurate in order for them to make a good decision based on fact. So if there are flaws, and we're seeing this already, then we do need to put brakes on this. Maybe it goes back to the legislature saying we need more time because we can't do this in a all comprehensive ability to do this comprehensively and include all of the concerns. That's just my thought. Thanks.
Thank you. And I think the legislative directive to do this study was part of the budget bill, if I'm not correct.
Yes.
And then it sounds like there was another bill passed that started a task force or a working group as well. So we've got, right, it looks like we're hitting this from multiple angles. Micah, then Tim, and then Todd.
Thank you, Council. Micah Chappelle, former SBCC council member, speaking on behalf of myself. My understanding is the legislative directive is about publicly funded building in Section 3 of 1282. Is that the right number? Yeah, 1282. And then it gets into the report by the technical group, which hasn't been developed yet. And in there, it doesn't talk about code language. I think that the other directive that talks about code language is not accurate. I think it should direct the council to develop code language. I don't think that the council should support Section 7 of this report as being vetted code language. Just so for a little bit of history, New Buildings Institute, which is a primary author of this code change or this report, provided a code change in the last code cycle that was unanimously vetted through the technical advisory group, the BFP committee, and the full council, and was unanimously voted down because it was technically inaccurate and not enforceable. Section 7 of this report is a regurgitation of that code language, which was unanimously voted down. Now, I do understand there's a current code change proposal for this code cycle from NBI, again, primary author of this report. But at this time, since it's not necessarily a requirement of this report to spell out the code language that we should adopt, I do believe that the council should remove that section from this report before sending on to the legislature. Again, that language has been vetted, it failed. So for us to say, yes, we're going to recommend this report and recommend that code language, I think is inappropriate. It needs to go through the full rulemaking process that it's going through now. Again, the code language is not enforceable language. It has lots of flaws as it was vetted last cycle and is being vetted this cycle. Thanks.
Thank you, Micah. Micah, if you could summarize that in a written document and submit, that would be appreciated.
Absolutely. We'd be happy to submit public comment in writing. Again, this is really quick and fast, and so people just haven't had enough time to review it. Thanks.
Exactly. Okay, I'm going to call on Tim, then Brent, then hold on, I have order here. Tim, then Todd, then Katie, then Brandon. So Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, Tim Atterbury, Associated General Contractors of Washington. Long agenda today. I'll just be real quick. I just want to associate myself with Corey's comments. A lot of great comments there. Someone said, you know, that's just your opinion, Corey. Well, we're all offering our opinion on this panel, whether you're on the State Building Code Council or just someone from the public offering opinions. We're all offering opinions, correct?
That is correct. Is that it, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, look at I think my computer froze there for a moment. Okay, no, thank you, Tim. Todd?
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for this is the point. We're having a public process, right now, and this is, as reference, only the starting point. We're not adopting any actual code language today. This is simply a report, a study to present to add more information into the future discussions that will be more relevant. And thank you, Megan, and all the consultants on this. The State Building Code Council couldn't pull this much information together without these expertise. And we are fortunate in our region and beyond, as referenced here, to have industry leading expertise. And I've been in this world for over 15 years now in academia and industry. My day-to-day responsibility is to deliver EPDs and understand how they then get integrated through voluntary or regulatory processes. So I think this can be both celebrated and criticized as a collection of information. I don't agree with everything in it, but it's not really that. It's a study to present what is being done. You could reframe it and say these aren't recommended code. This is what's being done. A lot of that's copied out of the Colorado code that's been adopted. A lot of it is referencing Cal Green code. And so we are a ways away from adopting embodied carbon code in the state. Yet we are beginning that journey. That's what the legislature's asked us to do, to inform it. And I think that study does this. This will by no means be the only information that a legislative committee is going to look at. If they're going to start to go down the path of saying, let's have a policy level discussion of whether we should have a green code or not. This has given us informed examples of what others are doing and of where the state of the industry is. I just came back from Greenbuild in Philadelphia, and I'll say there is not consensus necessarily about how to do it. This is very hard stuff, but it's also not hard. We understand how to. An EPD is actually very accurate, and we're evolving in understanding how to then apply that either at the material category level, which is one pathway in here, but there are other pathways, which are whole building life cycle assessment, which is the performance phase, and it lays it all out there. So I think it's inclusive. And the last thing we want to do as a council is starting to get into a boundary level argument right now. We can go down a wormhole if we start at the council level here discussing exactly how we draw the boundaries. That should be a future discussion, and that work group is one example of that's being formed by Commerce, a legislative mandated work group that is going to start to do that. So I'll leave it there, but I just want to say thank you for this. I think we should submit it as as more information than we had yesterday. So thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Katie, then Brandon.
Thank you. I'm looking at the mandate, it was SB 59.50, section 151, section 15. And in terms of Micah's comment, it outlines what we're supposed to do, including that, we are supposed to go over code language in other jurisdictions, including but not limited to Cal Green. And so, it's well outlined in the statute or in the bill. So, that passed. So, to me, the report is in compliance with what we were required to do. The only thing is that we're supposed to provide opportunities for public comment. And if we're submitting, as Chell pointed out, the comments on where the due date is on December 1st, and we're going to turn it over and submit it to the appropriate committees on December 1st. It seems appropriate to, like Senator Wilson suggested, attach the comments in the report as also submitted. So, and I was just wondering, Dustin, what you were going to do with those comments. Were they just going to go in a package along with the report, or are we just going to hold on to them and let them know that we have public comment in addition to what this report says?
At the outset of this plan for developing and delivering this report, we had a tight timeline. So I understand that our comment period is a little bit shortened, but we have our deadline of December 1 for delivery. As we receive comments, anything that we receive is going into an appendix attached to the report to be delivered to the legislature.
And then to me, that captures a lot of the process, and it complies with the mandate that we were given. And so hopefully all those comments get reviewed alongside the report and given the gravity that they need. So thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Brandon Housekeeper.
Thank you, Chair Doyle. Brandon Housekeeper on behalf of American Wood Council and as a contract lobbyist in Olympia, representing other wood product manufacturers as well. First, I want to thank Carbon Leadership Forum and Rocky Mountain Institute and New Buildings Institute for the efforts that they put forward. On behalf of my client, we reached out shortly after the legislative session, to the State Building Code Council staff, raising our hands and saying that we were willing, ready, and prepared to engage with our subject matter experts to help provide, I think, relevant information to the study that was required under the proviso. And I think our expectations, based on the language in the proviso and how that was drafted, was that there would be much greater stakeholder involvement. I think, frankly, probably to help solve some of the discussion and confusion today around process and ability to provide some of that expertise. We will be submitting comments. American Wood Council will be submitting comments with some highlights and things that we want to be considered as this moves forward. So we appreciate that those comments will be included in the appendix that will be submitted to the legislature. I just, for the benefit of the council, point out to you in kind of connecting the dots that there are other processes that are going on around embodied carbon as well, that you should at least be aware of. And that includes legislative proposals that are already on the table from Representative Dueller that stakeholders are having the opportunity to review and provide comment on, as well as your TAG group just yesterday suspended consideration of a petition that was before them on embodied carbon, that we were prepared to comment on yesterday. But I understand that petition is being amended by those that brought it forward, and will be resubmitted. And I hope that we'll have maybe better process or better timing of process there to review and comment on that proposal that's before the TAG as well. Because I think process is really important, what you're hearing from some of the stakeholders today. And I really think the point of my comments today is to raise our hand and make sure that you're aware that American Wood Council and the wood products industry is willing, ready, and able to provide subject matter expertise as you continue to look at the important issue of embodied carbon moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Roger?
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's comments, and what I have not heard is there is a state law passed, the Buy Fair, Buy Clean Act, which requires embodied carbon calculations. So the idea that we should not account for embodied carbon in some way, there's currently a state law that requires it. So I want to respond to my opinions comment. I completely agree with Senator Wilson, and I also agree with the last comment. It is about process. The State Building Code Council was given, don't quote me on the exact, 8 or 9 months, something like that, to do this. You can always comment on how well we filled those months, but we did a very quick study, which is the amount of time the legislature gave us. I completely agree with attaching any comments that are made as an appendix, because my whole point about the opinions is we need to hear everybody's opinion and consider them, and that will occur in the process of first the legislature, I assume, and I'm not a legislator. I have not been that involved in those negotiations and considering of bills. But there is open process for that, or open public, comments that can be applied during the legislative process. And then the comments about code language, I have to rather vehemently oppose the comments that Micah had. I was on the IBC tag last code cycle. It was not unanimously turned down because I voted for it last code cycle at the tag level. And the proposal did not get to this full State Building Code Council because it didn't come out of the tag. So I don't want to misrepresent what was happened last time. There is a code proposal for that is being considered in the current IBC tag process. It has not been suspended. We are still in the process of considering that particular proposal, including public comment. So I agree with the last person that shared. The process is very, very important. We need to make sure that we are allowing for the public comment and doing that to the best of our ability within the timeline we are given.
Thank you, Roger. Shell, then Representative Rommel.
Thank you. I guess to Micah's point, and as part of what has been discussed in the legislative committee, I think we should express that we don't want the legislator to write code language, instead giving us freedom. So I think we as the council should add a few comments at the beginning that we thank the authors of the report, that we want to ensure that the legislature doesn't believe that we think this is the exact code language that should be adopted if they wanted to write a law that is in part based on this report. So per what the legislative committee has been working on and discussing, we should make it clear that the goals and directions to the SBCC are preferred to specific code language in RCWs. So just as a background, I have conversations in my professional role about embodied carbon all the time. We at our architecture firm analyze and reduce embodied carbon on all projects across Washington and nationally. I work on the specifications. I work with concrete suppliers, GCs, wood products industry, steel suppliers, and many, many others during my professional work. This has become normal for architects. And large firms like mine, as well as small firms of 8 people, often do embodied carbon analysis as well. So it's quickly become a standard that this is something that is part of just a normal business environment in Washington. There are numerous discussions and debates, and lots of critical things can be said one way or the other. And we could address them point by point, but I think it would take a long time because they are very technical, as was brought up earlier. But I think this is a report that's been completed and is ready to go to the legislature. So I'd recommend that we move forward with the report and include a note at the beginning that explains that we think that, kind of what I said earlier, that we don't prefer the legislature to write code language, and we don't, as the Building Code Council, we're not, by sending in this report, saying that this is the code language that we would write, but saying that this is the report you asked for, And if you set a direction through an RCW, we can, we will write the code language to get there. I don't know if we're ready for a motion yet. I would make a motion if we are, but I don't want to. I want to make sure everybody has time to comment.
Sure, and I'm actually, you kind of headed down the path toward a motion, so I would entertain it at this point. I'm still going to recognize the people whose hands are up.
Okay, I will make a motion to move the report to the legislature with all the public comments that are submitted by December 1st, as well as whatever comments are submitted today, with a note at the beginning to the effect that we don't believe that this is the exact code language that we would write, and that we would, per the legislative committee's discussions, we would prefer the legislature, if they want to do something with this, to write direction to us, but not specific code language. So that's my motion.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Dustin, can I ask, is that clear enough direction for you to write a cover letter?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jill. Representative Rommel.
Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chair. And thanks, Shell. Your admonishment to the legislature to stay in our lane is appreciated and point well taken here, at least. I guess the thing I just want to request be made clear in that communication to the legislature, I have no objection to including public comments being added as an appendix, but I would just urge that it be clear that those are unvetted. This is a report that, as quick a turnaround as it may be, did go through multi-stage public process, was reviewed and thought over by a lot of folks who are professional. If we're going to include every public comment that comes in up through midnight the day before, I think we should be clear that we're not vetting, we're not reviewing, and that we're not endorsing the comments. We're just passing them along so the legislature can consider them.
I think that sounds fair. Dustin, could that also be incorporated in your cover letter?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Michael and Micah and then back to Megan. So we'll go with all the M's, not necessarily in alphabetical order. So Michael Transu, you've had your hand up for a while.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So going back and looking at the proviso, and I'm the contract lobbyist for the Aggregate and Concrete Association. If you go back and look at the proviso, specifically it says in conducting the study. It doesn't say after the study is conducted. So I think the legislature intended for the input that you're hearing from a lot in the industry per the proviso itself needed to occur as the study was being developed, not after the fact. So, I think you're hearing folks talk about what we desire, is the cleanest and most supported report, not something that hasn't been, vetted more properly in the front end with the associations that you see testifying today. I would note that the outreach that did occur, that the report says at the top of page 2 or 3, that who was spoken to as it relates to the report were 3 architects, about 5 engineers, 1 contractor, and 1 code person. So I think from my perspective, it seems like that the group that is referenced in the report to be consulted not only wasn't the broadest of groups, but also didn't occur while conducting the study. So I appreciate you letting me talk, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And if you'd like to follow up with a letter to that effect, we would be happy to accept it.
Thank you.
Micah.
I appreciate the time again. Jill, I definitely agree with the direction you're going there and providing some information on the code language and that this is not an all-encompassing code language. I do want to point out to Roger and state this again, this is about publicly funded buildings, and that's part of the legislation, whether you deem it necessary to go into the code or not. And then on top of that, it was brought up to the full council. You mentioned that it didn't make it out of the tag. Last cycle, we didn't have the same rules in place that we do now. So it was brought to the BFP committee and the full council as a disputed issues and shown and presented. So again, we're talking about not misleading folks. I wasn't misleading anyone. I may have got the unanimous vote incorrect on the tag, but again, this was brought all the way through the process and heard in 3 places. Now the rules have changed. We can't do that today in this current code cycle, but last cycle that was the case. Thanks.
Thanks, Micah. Megan, then Patrick.
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly say a few things. So first, we would have obviously really appreciated the opportunity to engage with more stakeholders and weren't able to in the timeline. I will note that because of that limited timeline, we did try to pull from all the previous code conversations we are aware of. So you see the analysis in the report of previous codes, but also the actual industry input that happened during those code processes, partially because some of the authors were a part of those conversations and got to hear some of that. One example, Micah, you pointed to that previous proposal. There's actually really different language that is put forth in this, partially because of pushback from industry. That previous proposal focused on different requirements for different materials and a small set of materials. And there was a lot of pushback against that idea. And so one of the reasons that you see a really broad range of options put forth in section 5 is because of previous industry input. So while we unfortunately weren't allowed in this timeline to include it, we did the best we could to pull in those previous conversations. I would also say, this again, as you do comment, we really hope people focus on section 5. We felt that because of the legislative language, we really needed to have section 7 to have a clear recommendation because that was part of what was required. We felt in the language, but section 5 focuses on options for all of the different types of pathways that were called out in the bill. So we hope that really gives a lot for commenters to look at and to see if some of those options they find to be a better path forward for Washington. So we view this as an opportunity to do as much work as we could to support SBCC's future efforts. We know that any language should be coming from the Washington Code Council, not from the study. And so we hope it's helpful for future conversations.
Thank you, Megan. Patrick, then Senator Wilson.
Yes, for the record, this is Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington. Just want to respond to some of the comments that I heard. I want to note that this is the first time the public has been able to look at the contents of the study and provide input or public comment, even though this topic has come up at prior meetings. The contents of the study was not available to stakeholders. Stakeholders were not involved during the study, as the proviso indicates. We weren't involved in crafting the code language. We weren't involved in looking at the data or the analysis or having any input on that. The only ability that we're going to able to provide input is by public comment through the addendum. I also want to note that with the code cycle heating up, there's a lot of tag meetings. The holidays are approaching and there's other issues coming before the council. It doesn't give stakeholders a lot of time to review a 95-page study and provide meaningful comments ahead of the deadline. And so I want to disagree with having a disclaimer on the comments. The addendum will be the only opportunity that the public has to officially get stakeholder input on the contents of the study, which the proviso says should have happened during it. So I think that they should be included without any kind of disclaimer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Senator Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as basically following on from Michael Transu's comments, he did state that it says in conducting the study. And the funny thing about what a single word can mean in a bill, it can say may or shall. This says must. So this was a directive to this council to include opportunities for comment from design, construction, and building industry stakeholders. It didn't say, we only gave you 8 months to do this, and if you don't have enough time, you don't have to do that. It says you must provide opportunities for the stakeholders. If there isn't, and according to the list I just heard, I don't see where the building industry stakeholders were at the table at all. So that's a concern. It also does not say that there's no statutory authority in this budget proviso to support any embodied carbon building codes. It says to address embodied, review the language addressing embodied carbon used in building codes of other jurisdictions. So that's a pretty broad statement. But if the in building industry stakeholders or construction were not at the table, this was not done properly.
Good observation. Todd?
Yeah, I want to ask a couple of questions, on that front. This is the second time we've heard this. So we did have, essentially the equivalent of a workshop where the information was presented and there was an opportunity it was a public meeting, there's opportunity for input, and then now we're hearing it again. And again, this is the equivalent of a resolution level. We're submitting a report of information. We're not taking any action here that adopts code, or we're not in rulemaking by any means here. So what we've asked here is we've asked some subject matter experts to help us provide information, and they're very qualified. And I don't think we can dispute their qualifications in the embodied carbon world. Now, can we have more public process? Yes, that's what we're starting right now. That's what this is. And it's going to go into the legislature for public process. And if it comes back with specific mandates, we would enter into rulemaking process, which is going to be very lengthy. We are currently in rulemaking process of considering an external proposal. So there's lots of opportunity for public input right now. And yes, there's much more information needed, and there is not pure consensus on any of this by any means. But I think they've gone through, I'm looking at table 5.5, and those are all of the relevant local, state codes that I know of. And they've gone through very objectively and by material category presented what exists and gave some example language, because without that example language, how do you know what to respond to? This is very inside baseball, and we need something to respond to talk about. So it's not recommended. It's not the code that the code council would come up with, but it is something for the legislature and the council and stakeholders to engage with. Thank you.
Thank you. Corey?
Thank you. I just want to thank Senator Wilson for her points and her comments. That was how we interpreted it. And I think Brandon Housekeeper pointed on it, and my lobbyist, Michael Transu, has also brought that up. And part of my concern is just looking at this cover page right here where it states recommendations for code language. And because industry wasn't at the table, I could say that some of the data in this report hasn't been vetted by industry, and it's incorrect. So specific to Washington industry and our industry. So I think that's some of the concerns, and being relegated to an appendix and an attachment to this report with comment seems a little bit backwards on this process. So I do thank Senator Wilson and my counterparts who have spoke up and questioned this process. I just want to state that. So thank you.
Thank you. Jill, I didn't see your hand go down from last time. Is this up for a second comment?
Apologies, I'll take it.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor and a second to forward this report along with anything submitted by stakeholders before December 1st with no recommendation from the council toward either the report or the stakeholder comments, and to also request that any code language be left to the council. Does that sound like the motion from the maker and the second?
Yes.
Okay. We got more hands. Angela, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just curious if it's possible to actually change the title of the report. I mean, unless that's exactly what legislation said, is that they want recommendations for code language. I think that title, like Corey said, is extremely misleading and kind of encourages the placement of language in legislature. So I don't know if that's possible, but that would be my request.
I would take that as a friendly amendment to the motion. I think that goes along with the idea that we are not actually making specific code language recommendations to the legislature. This is more of recommendations to us, but as we pass on to the legislature, I think changing the title of the report would be a friendly amendment.
Would you take out recommendations for and say a study of? I mean, we need to replace it with something.
I would want code language removed.
Okay. That sounds like an amendment to the motion, but I'd love to.
I'll take that as friendly though.
Okay.
So if the second does, then, and I guess I'd say something like, I don't know, I'd have to think about it to come up with a better title, but I think it could be.
May I, as the second, suggest as a friendly amendment, we modify it to say directly from the proviso, a study of language addressing embodied carbon use in the building codes of various jurisdictions. It's almost directly from that, but basically the title is, here we have studied what you asked us to study.
I think that sounds reasonable.
That seems reasonable.
Okay, any comments on the amendment? Representative Rommel.
Oh, sorry, my comments on the next topic. So I'll go to the back.
Thank you. Shell, do you have anything? Shell, your hands up.
Apology.
Okay. Seeing no hands up on the amendment to revise the title to what's shown on the screen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, back to the main motion. Representative Rommel.
Thanks. Just wanted to respond to Chair's characterization of the motion. You said something to the effect of without recommendation of the report or the comments. And I guess my request stands that we clearly differentiate. You know, folks have had questions about the timeline and the extent of the public engagement in the process. I hear that. I don't have comment on it. But I do think that this report is of a different nature. Having come from this body, having had a series of opportunities for members of this body to participate, for the whole body to look at it and comment last month, and to have a public process, including the hearing and discussion today. I think that is different than a comment that was written by a individual stakeholder and mayor. And I think we should clearly differentiate those two in the way that this is transmitted to the legislature. Thanks.
Okay, so as I recall, last month we got an overview, just a handful of slides saying this is what to anticipate. We've only had this report for a few days. This is the first real discussion of the report itself. So I'll leave it to the makers of the motion whether they feel that they want to add an endorsement of the report or an acceptance. Chell, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think the Building Code Council is endorsing the report in any way that says, you know, hey, we think this should become a law or something like that. That wasn't the intent of the motion.
Okay.
But we are submitting the report as the work that went through the Building Code Council and that we requested entities to provide for the proviso. So I think we're to some extent saying this is our report. We're not recommending the report. So we're, I guess, to some extent, we're recommending the report as our work. And I think the appendix will be a separate, an appendix. It will say appendix, these are comments we received, that kind of thing. That was the intent of my motion. I don't know that we need to say, bring up a lot of information about, I think we should explain how the appendix was created. But I don't think we need to preference one over the other in the, brief report to the legislature. I think here's our report and the public made comments on it, and here's the comments. I think that's a fine way to approach it.
That's how I understood it as well. Ted, then Senator Wilson.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that because of the lack of vetting in the process that was actually required by the statute or the bill, whatever you want to call it, this report is only an opinion, and it's no more valuable than the opinions of those of us who have commented on it or those who will continue to comment between now and December 1st. It's just an opinion, and it's an opinion that a lot of us disagree with.
Thank you, Ted. Senator Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My comment is based on the fact that this was only truly, as you stated, released. What day was it actually released? It only says November on the actual report. It's what, how many hundreds of pages long, 150 pages long?
And it's 95 pages on November 8th.
November 8th?
Yeah,
okay.
1 week ago.
Okay, so they have 3 weeks to read this, absorb this, discuss this within their industry, and comment on it. Comment comes in on November 30th. How much of that is incorporated into this? It isn't. That's the whole purpose of public comment, is for us to listen to the public and the stakeholders who were not included in this. So yes, this is rushed, and it definitely has to be of no opinion. It can't be endorsed because it isn't being endorsed by any industry that has had any time to actually get into this thing. By the way, I'm in the wood industry, and I don't have the staff on our small business to sit down and read through this and understand everything that's been being done in the process. I don't have a staff that it only looks at legislation. Clearly, that's going to have to be the direction we're going to go. But I'm only one of many in the state that are in the same situation. And we have to understand what's going on here. So, and be able to comment on it. So I'm just saying that's the whole purpose of public comment. And if we don't listen to it and incorporate it, that's not transparent. And then you're going to get pushback, because that's the way it works.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, as been stated a couple of times, stating that this is our report that assumes we've got ownership of it, and that we agree that it is worth putting forward. And I just got to say that I'm not among those that feel I have ownership and I can agree with putting this forward as, anything other than a study that was conducted without proper review.
Okay. I think the motion says that we're not biased one way or the other. And we are kind of bound by the timeline that was given to us. So with that, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, sounds like the motion carries. Thank you. That was a vibrant discussion on a really important topic. So with that, I'm going to pop back over to my agenda here. We are going to go into executive session to discuss with our legal counsel representing the agency any litigation to which the agency is or may be a party to. When the public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. So we're going to try and do that in 30 minutes. We'll move over there at 11:35. We'll pause this meeting and return at 12:05 to resume this meeting. So meeting is suspended.